Hello, everybody, and welcome to Supper Club Presents Pizza Time, another installment of creator interviews here at Game Club Central, trying to cover everyone. And tonight, we have more than a three-way. We have a four-way. MPT3K, Harlan, MrH, Daphishbowl, now known collectively as the Pincredibles. I'm gonna introduce each one of them, allow them to tell you a little about themselves. But first, it's pizza time. I myself got pepperoni with black olives. I've eaten quite a bit of it. I will eat more in front of you. Manu, could you show us your pizza and tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. MPT3K?
I have burrito pizza because that's what the wife made tonight. My name is Manu. I host a channel on twitch.tv called Mystery Pinball Theater 3000. It started maybe 3 years ago, maybe a little longer than that. I don't know.
You're old.
I am. Well, that's the two have nothing to do with each other. I started streaming pinball for my love of pinball, and also because I wanted Free Go Watch, which is my local pinball spot here in San Francisco. I wanted Free Go Watch to have streaming capabilities because everyone else was streaming. They didn't have it, so I got together with the owner, Matt Henry, and we came up with a streaming system for Free Go Watch. I tested it at home, clicked play on Twitch, created an account, clicked play on Twitch, and then somehow people started showing up and watching. So that's kind of the quick story about how I'm streaming. I have a virtual pin, which is called the Mystery Pinball Theater 3000, that I built like 12 years ago. And I stream both. I call it physical pinball. You can say real pinball. I stream both physical pinball and virtual pinball.
Okay. Daphishbowl, would you show us what pizza you have? We'll just imagine it. And tell us whatever you'd like to tell us about who are you? You're very mysterious.
All right. Well, I like to just stay behind the scenes on things, but pizza today is a nice Greek pizza with feta and lamb and some little spicy pepperoncinis on it. So that's one of my favorites. About me, I guess, I love to code. So I'm always looking for new ways and ideas and things to code. So anything I find. And so for pinball, I thought the kids would really like a real pinball machine because my buddy has one and he has a bunch actually. And I couldn't decide. And so I said, let me try this virtual pin thing. So kind of like got into that and started coding that. So that's kind of what I love to do. Hobbies, building anything, everything, woodwork, any
tinkerer,
electronics. Yeah, just do it all.
Cool. Okay. MrH?
Yeah, man. I'm chowing down on a pizza with the lot, and that includes pineapple, which I'm sure a couple of you guys would probably go, oh.
Man after my heart.
No, I'm in San Francisco. They've already ruined pizza, so don't worry about it. I'm in New York.
But yeah, from Australia. I live just outside of Melbourne. Have done for the last 6 years, I think. But I moved out because I've got a wife and kids, and at that point we wanted space for the kids to grow up with. We were living pretty inner city. And I was working for a company doing architectural visualizations, all 3D type stuff and graphic design. And I think the first thought when I had decided to move out here was, awesome, I've got space. I can get a pinball machine now. So very quickly jumped online, probably eBay, thought, let's get Adam's Family, and saw that the prices were like $18,000 for a pinball machine.
Wow.
And I wasn't into pinball back then. Like, I wasn't following communities on Facebook and all that sort of stuff. So obviously the only real pin, and then probably a handful of others that I knew of, was, Adam's Family. I'm like, well, I just cannot afford that. So very quickly, somehow stumbled across Virtual Pin, and that's how I got into that. So when I moved out here, I love doing woodworking and all that sort of stuff as well. Like, I do stuff on computers, but you got to have stuff that's the complete opposite, just to, just ease the mind and get away from all that sort of stuff and escape. So yeah, there's a big shed. So the first thing I started doing was building the cabinet, and basically that was the start of Virtual Pin for me.
Cool. How long you been in the hobby, if I may ask?
Yeah, it'd be about 6 or, if I really looked at it, it's probably more, but I always think, just a couple of years. And then when I actually think, I'm like, well, I am, 41 now. So time flies. So probably, 6 or 7 years. Yeah, but I've only really been doing stuff like, with these guys when COVID struck, or a little bit before COVID kicked in. Yeah.
One more important question. I've never been to Australia, but I'm curious because Manu mentioned New York. I think he's a former New Yorker. Like New York, do you put the pepperoni down under the cheese?
Perfect.
Pepperoni. Cheese is on the base, man.
Come on. That was a good joke.
Cheese. Yeah.
Manu's going to have my head later. That's okay.
No, I'm muted so you can't hear me groan, so don't worry about it.
We saw your face. I'm not worried. Harlan, would you take the floor?
Absolutely. So full disclosure, I was going to have a video feed on, but when I found out I was going to be on with a couple of guys with a Greek pizza and pineapple pizza at that point, I have to go incognito. So I'm from New York. I am enjoying from Romeo's Pizza, just the traditional cheese pizza, but the kind you fold in half and then the grease runs down your arm. So yeah, exactly. That's how we do it.
Hell yeah.
Got Romeo's here too.
Yeah. It's probably a different Romeo, but
it is.
Can't go wrong, right?
I know what you're talking about.
Yep. And this guy does Zeppelis, which I grew up with, and my daughter absolutely loves. So for those of you guys that don't know, I think every culture has their fried dough dessert. So it's just fried dough covered in powdered sugar.
Powdered sugar,
and, it's like crack for my daughter, yeah.
Donuts and powdered sugar.
Yeah, right. So again, I'm from New York. How do I get into this hobby? So I've always been into computers and video games my whole life, and but really wasn't into pinball. But always wanted a pinball machine, and I think a lot like MrH, where I looked up a Medieval Madness. I'm like, this is what I'm gonna have. This is the pinball machine, and then I saw the price, and I'm like, maybe not. And so I came across a lot of the videos from Terry Red and Major Frenchie, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll try this virtual thing, and so that's and that was about 2 years ago. 2.5 years.
Wow. Cool. I'm looking forward to the questions in that I have for you tonight. So, thank you.
Oh, great.
We already got Manu. So, thanks, everybody. The Pincredibles. There's 4 of them.
I love that name and the logo. I love both. Harlan came up with the logo.
Well, I assume no capes.
No capes. No capes.
No capes.
Oh. No capes.
No capes.
All right.
Just flippers.
Just flippers. Only flippers. Sorry. Well, every superhero squad, and this is from Paladin Arcade, it's a great question, has individual special abilities among the individuals. Can you fill in the gaps and kind of make a cohesive superhero team out of this? Can you break down for me what each of your superpowers are? For instance, where does your handle come from? Is Manu like Bruce Wayne? Does he just, his power is money,
You saw the wine.
Wine.
Figured that
His
one out.
power is wine.
No.
Oh, that kind of wine.
Yeah, we figured it out.
Kryptonite.
So, Daphishbowl, would you be Superman? Manu is Batman, right? Harlan, what do you think? Wonder Woman? No. I don't know you that
Stop
well.
it. Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
So, I don't know, man. I'll go with the Flash. How's that?
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
I would agree because we usually give Harlan like 30 seconds to do a ton of output.
Yep.
When,
Hey, we need some
yesterday-
After Effects.
Exactly.
Mr. H, do you want to take that on, or you can avoid it completely?
I'll avoid it, but I probably would have said Robin.
Yeah.
I was going to say Aquaman because you talk to fish. Anyways, Manny's groaning some more. I'm going to move on.
I gotta set that drum kit up.
Nice. I add those in after, don't worry. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you entertaining my silliness. But seriously, what drives you to work together? What's the chemistry you four have that makes such incredible tables? Any one of you can take that.
I would say start with Daphishbowl and MrH because, as I know, the two of you were working together first, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
So honestly, like when I started to get into this, my friend had Guardians, and out of all the tables he played, I played at his house. I was like, man, I really like Guardians. I just like the way it looks, it feels, the Groot, everything about it. And I was like, cool. And I got into the VPN. I was like, great, let's download Guardians. I was like, there's no Guardians. I go, what do you mean there's no Guardians? You got everything else, And I was like, how can there be no Guardians? And I posted on there. I was like, why is there no Guardians? They're like, somebody responded, there will never be a Guardians of the Galaxy table. And that is the one thing when I hear, I'm like, no. There is no never, right? That's the challenge. And so I kind of started that, and then I was like, I'm going to see what this is about, and started digging into it. Well, as I started doing that, Mr. H came in. He goes, you're going somewhere with this. He goes, you may want to look into, these different forums. I didn't know anything about these forums. And so I got into orbital framework, and then I was like, I started doing that. I was like, I'll just do a little DMD. I was like, I'll make it easy. And the more I got it, I'm like, well, wait a minute, we can do a back class. And so we started digging more and more. As we kept digging and more came out. I met Nailbuster, and all that started happening, and then pointing me a few other people, and then I'm trying to think, how did I think Harlan came in next, right?
Yeah. So I weaseled my way in because I saw what this guy was doing, and I'm like, man, this guy is really talented, and and I wanted to work with people like Scotty, that the quality is just so high level, and so I kind of weaseled my way in, and we started talking, and I knew Manu was a huge fan of the Guardians table, and so I'm like, look, I know this guy, and he knows the rule set, and he knows the table like the back of his hand. I'm sure he'd love to help. And Fishbowl was like, I don't know, man, sounds sketchy. You know what I mean? And I really had to kind of like pound on him to kind of open that door to Manu, and then once they connected, that's all she wrote. Those guys hit it off.
That's cool. Manu.
Sorry, I was still muted. I felt kind of like the outlier because I've been in the community, the virtual pinball community, but I've been a lurker for like 15 years. Like, I'm the same story where I didn't want to buy a pinball machine, but I'm friends with this pinball owner out here named TJ Beyer, who has like 150 machines. Now he's got more. He's got tons of machines.
Wow.
And he would put machines in people's houses. Just for fun, not renting them, just for fun. He said, man, what machine do you want? And my wife and I couldn't figure out which machine. And I started looking online, and this was when people first started building cabs.
Saying smart.
Stuff yeah. I mean, it was very prehistoric. But when my first son was born, I needed a project, so I spent 5 months building mine. But coming back to this, it was, for me, it was a lot of physical pinball. Like, at Free Go Watch because I live 5 minutes away from a place that has 60 pinball machines. And a lot of the top players, IFPA players. So yeah, Harlan got me in touch with Daphishbowl. And the first time I streamed it was like 2 years ago. I liked it, but I didn't love it, right? Because I saw a lot that was not there. It's like a black box, these games, and it's really difficult. If you don't have the access to the code, it's really difficult to do anything. But the game itself, as far as MrH's like 3D work was insane. Like for the remake, we did nothing. Like all we did was work on rules. Is that right, Daphishbowl?
Yeah, no visuals at all, really. I mean, it was all just fixing up the rules.
Yeah.
And backlash,
And animations, new animations.
New animation, yeah, you're right. But as far as the table is concerned, it was like rock solid.
Yeah, no new models, no Blender work.
No.
He's an artist.
No.
He's like awesome.
Thank you. Well, that's what I do that's my day job, like ArcViz, I've been like architectural renders. I've been doing that for, 15 odd years. So it's a nice distraction away from the day job too. And like before I met these guys, I'd been in the community. I built my machine and was playing all the tables and all that sort of stuff and loving them. And then you come across some tables that are done by GTK5, was it? Is it? Apologies if I...
GK5. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Did T2 and...
Yeah, you see those tables back in those days come out, and they're all pre-rendered and they just look realistic. And, for me, it's like, I want all of the tables to look like this now. Like, we were spoiled.
You're spoiled, yeah.
And then I'd sort of spoken to him quite a bit because he's from Australia as well. And, just sort of bugging him, like, how do you do this? How are you doing it? Because I wanted to make tables. I wanted to be able to go into a table and redo it in that realistic way. And, I'd sort of dabbled with a few projects with a few people just helping out bits and pieces. But, I really wanted Batman 66. I really wanted that when I'd actually gone out when I'd gone out and played a pinball after I'd built my virtual stuff. And then I'm playing all these new Spike 2 systems, and they've got the flashy LCDs and the sound and the music, and like
cartoons and
it's all stepped up again. Like now I want the new flashy stuff. And I wanted to create tables, and then very quickly just found that you just can't do it by yourself. You just burn yourself out. Like, Scotty Wick, how he does tables, he does all of the 99% of it. I'm like, you just can't do it. Like, you got to be quite special because you will burn yourself out. And plus, I just don't know coding and all that sort of stuff. Like, there's areas that I have no idea with. And I think that's when I came up with Dapish, like when he had Guardians, like he was just smashing it with the coding, and it looked easy from like for him. And I just thought, well, man, like you do coding, I do 3D. Like this is it. Like this is what you need in a team, like to just be able to progress through tables. And that was it, sort of, for me. That's I had suggested a whole bunch of things to look at, forums and all that sort of stuff. And then we just sort of all communicated, and it all just sort of came together in the end.
Yeah, your name was newer to me. I knew you'd done some 3D work, and but just this evening I found out you worked on Scotty Wick's Pizza Time. You did some work on that. The dragon in Harry Potter, is that true? Can you tell me a little about that?
I might have just polished that. I think he had a model, and he needed to be tweaked just to be able to get it into the table and all that sort of stuff. But like at that point, I just wanted to help. Like I just wanted to get involved in creating. Like I almost get more of a kick out of creating than I actually do playing. So yeah, just tried to, like, I'd always be watching board with his tables,
That's amazing work.
He's just a god, like just recreating tables in that realistic sense as well. Just trying to find my little niche, my little spot to fit, And
I think it's cool. You've worked with several people. I mean, and very talented people. I mean, Patty Wick and Daphishbowl, and that's cool.
I did some work on the Monsters. I really wanted to get that off the ground, but it didn't quite work from the coding
like 60s
side.
classic TV, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's just stuff that I came across the TV when I was a kid. And being in Australia, it wasn't every day, but I don't know, just clicked. I like that stuff. I grew up with Batman, like that was...
Me too.
I love Batman.
The pow, the biff, I mean...
Yeah, just all that style of music, sort of rockabilly type stuff. It's just, yeah.
And the actors were incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were. Don't laugh at me, Manu.
So
Not talking about Bird Ward.
I really wish you could see the before and after. I sent it in the chat just so you can see, like on Facebook. But if you see like what I had, and then you flip it over and you see what Jamie did, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And this is like when my kid saw it, he's like, look, I was like, oh, check this out. Look what all it can do. Yeah. And then I laid in Jamie's stuff. I was like, my son's like, oh my gosh, that's real.
You had no modeling in there.
Oh my God. It was horrible. I'm surprised you even like tried with me. I was like, I look at it, I'm like, that looks like a blob of crap, man. It's like,
well, you just used like the playfield image from like a Stern photo, and you've like sort of stretched it into the VPX. Right. And I'm like, wow, this looks incredible. It's got the hands and Groot and all that sort of stuff. And then when you actually change the perspective in VPX, it's like, it's just a plane.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm like, okay, man. All right. Okay. I can do all of the other stuff.
Well, I mean, before all the news, I mean, everything was flat before VR, right? And that's what I was...
Yeah. You could get away with a lot of stuff.
A lot.
Before VR. Yeah.
And now you can't.
That's right.
No.
Thanks, VPW.
Yeah.
It's a good problem. Mr. H said it best. We all get that one table. It looks awesome. And you're like, well, why can't my other favorite table look this good?
Yeah.
Lately, that's been changing. So thanks to guys like you and as you mentioned, Board and VPW, thanks guys. Too much good stuff to play. But Mr. H, is your name anything special? Is it just a play on your name?
Nah, nothing special. We'll just, quickly think of a name when you're creating a login for something, like, that'll do.
Mr. H. Okay. People look a little too close into the name, so I thought I would ask. Swimming around in his little bowl is Daphishbowl. And there he is right there on screen. But I wanted to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind. Some of which you kind of already glazed over, told me what brought you into the hobby. I mean, you came out of nowhere and you wowed people and had people like Harlan and Mr. H going, hey, what's this guy doing? And others. So do you get to play often, real or virtual, outside of what you're developing? Do you have a local place like Manu, or?
I do. I have a local place that I go to, and it has about, 20, 25 tables or so. And and then, like I said, my neighbor has like 10 alone on his own. And and now I actually own Mandalorian.
Oh.
And so the real one. And
cool.
That was, it was like 2 years ago, into 2019. Is when I got a VPN. I was like, trying to do this, and so that was, but yeah, I play, now that I play my reel, I was like, oh, yeah, that's missing. And the nice thing is that Manu would say things to me, and he's like, hey, it's just this, it's like, what was the one? He's like, well, can you delay this so you can soft plunge? I go, I don't even know what you're saying. What does that even mean?
The early days were fun.
Yeah, but then you get a cab, you go over, you try to simulate what he's saying, right?
Yeah, now he says, go check out your drop targets. I'm like, okay, I can touch them, feel them. It's like, oh, that's how a drop target really works. Okay, I see what you mean now, I mean, when cycling inserts or just different things with the way the table just works inherently. It was just, now I can see it for real. So, and I like pinball. I more so though, I like to make the impossible possible, right? So.
Makes sense. And you do.
Try.
So, and this came from Paladin Arcade, thanks to Paladin, but he was looking at your script and noticed that you programmed professionally before you mentioned it tonight. But how much scripting do you do in Visual Basic prior to Guardians, and did you have any idea what you were getting yourself into? You've already answered that part, but
yeah. So specifically, I coded in VB for maybe about 5 years after high school. And so I knew VB. I mean, I did some serious coding in VB, making VB push the limits. So I really knew VB. And but what I didn't really understand was just, the lighting and all the other aspects of a table. That was just foreign to me. I had to really learn all that. But for me, for what I do for work, it's always hey, I need this project. I need it in this language, and here's your interface. Go do it. I'm like, okay, I just figure it out. So, I mean, now I'm doing stuff in Unreal Engine. I mean, I've never done that before, but I'm figure it out and make it happen. So
you like the
cool.
challenge.
Yeah, yes, that's the challenge.
Cool. For virtual pinball, what was the most challenging aspect of you? Was it the light and shadows, or has other stuff challenged you more?
No, not. I mean, because so honestly, like we said, MrH does all the lighting, all the models, the shadows, and everything like that. Okay. I mean, when I did the initial Guardians, like I said, it was. I didn't get it. I was like, sure, it's supposed to blink, and I made it blink. That's the basics, but he made it real. So I tend to not. I'll do minor things, here and there, and I understand it enough to tweak anything, but for the real heavy lifting, I leave that to the people who are pros at that. What was really hard with is understanding how tables really work. And that's what Manu really brought to the table is when you're in the pop bumpers, you have no control of the ball. Why is your timer running? Timer's pause. I was like, I never would have saw that.
Right.
For some tables like Batman, not for Guardians.
Right. Well, yeah, and but Guardians pauses the ball save.
The ball save
when it's in there. That's another thing. Yeah. The Maiden's the same way. Timers pause. When you're in. How does instant info really work? How does attract really work? How do modes really stack? Right. Those things. That was the most challenging on really figuring out what do they really do underneath the hood, so that, outlane ball drains, right? If your ball save is on and you hit the outlane, it instantly gives you the ball while your ball hasn't even hit the drain yet.
Right.
But it does that. And honestly, I was like, that's a nice to have. But now that it's in there, you're like, no, that's a must have. When I play my real table and I play this, I'm like, I expect it. It hits and I instantly look in that shooter lane and I'm ready. Here comes the ball. It's the feel of that. And so those things, that was the most difficult part. It's just without having a table, how does a table really work? And so honestly, on Guardians, I rented it for about 3 or 4 weeks, and so to just understand it. But I didn't know half the things that Manu, who's been doing this for, I don't know, how long you been playing pinball, Manu? 20 years?
I started in the 70s.
Back when roller games was fresh. No, not the pinball, the sport.
Ow, Marty. Ouch. Oh, hang on. Let me get that arrow out of my back.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Daphishbowl.
I got a gauze for you.
No, that's kind of, that was the big challenge. And that's what makes it still fun. I mean, we're still finding out things today, like the one we just implemented, cycling inserts, when two modes are stacked. I made it so that, it's still new. Hey, when you hit this insert, if multiple modes are stacked, I knew I had to trigger, give you score for both modes. But now what I see is like, oh, the inserts actually cycle, right? It's like, oh, it's red and yellow, red and yellow, red and yellow, because you can see, or it can be 3 colors, 4 colors. Though that kind of thing is like, we're still learning how to like, oh, we didn't implement that,
Cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's for me when we started Guardians. For me, I probably knew 50% of it. Probably knew 50% of it, which was still like 40% more than maybe two.
Yeah.
Sorry, Daphishbowl.
No, that's good.
I'm not being insulting. I'm just saying, yeah,
Nope.
It's probably where we were. But now, like at this point, Daphishbowl and I think it's almost like an obsession.
Yeah.
We realistically will, but as of this interview right now, there's a release candidate, 2 already? And there are some exploits. I don't want to say exploit. So I don't want to steal this from Daphishbowl, but I just want to reiterate the difficulty that Daphishbowl had wasn't in the coding. It was in the concepts. And right now, we're both actually still learning. Maybe not the base concepts, but more about edge cases in Guardians of the Galaxy. Just edge cases, just little things that my buddies over at Frigo Watch, who are all pretty much top 500 IFPA players, will pull me to the side and go, hey, Mono, did you know that in Guardians you can do X, Y, Z? And I go, oh, man. Is that in the latest code? Yeah, it's in the latest code. It has nothing to do with code. It's we figured it out.
Is it stuff that, little things that you wouldn't normally notice unless you play it a lot? I mean, I know for example, high speed, the getaway, you can shoot that top flipper, and that's how you get away. But in the code, there's a way to do it with the stoplights by completing all 9. Stuff like that you find, and,
Yeah, that and even worse stuff.
Cool.
Because you're talking about tournament players.
Right.
You're talking about the players who don't care about anything but high scores. And they will spreadsheet, and like Daphishbowl has spreadsheets on Guardians, but they will spreadsheet from the get-go and figure out it's called PPM, right? Mm-hmm. Maximize your PPM, your points per minute. How do I get a maximized PPM to beat like Andrei Masenkov or Steve Bowden or whoever I'm up against? And they're learning these things that are outside even the scope of even Stern, right? They're think of video game guys who do speed runs.
Yeah, they're not calling Nintendo and saying, hey, I found this way to score better, because it's going to get nerfed.
Nintendo will probably nerf it. Stern probably doesn't care. I mean, unless Stern is like worried about tournament scores, which they have, I think, better things to worry about. Yeah.
Now I'm going to get to you. I got questions for you, but if you don't mind, I have a follow-up for Daphishbowl and his most challenging thing that he ever encountered. Dafish, I swear, I thought you were going to say it was Manu and his dual-stage flippers. But I've learned that you really like people who say, hey, I know you can't do this. And I'm sure that's how Manu brought that to you, right?
So
I never said that.
Come on, Daphishbowl, give it to me.
So like, the on the dual stage was more. I'm trying to think. I think it was on Maiden.
That's Daphishbowl's fault.
Yeah, I did. I saw that on Maiden, and I was like, how did he do that? How did he cradle a ball and let the top flipper down and shot up that right orbit? That's impossible. And I asked around. I think I even asked Manu. I was like, oh yeah, that's dual stage flippers. You know, I was like, what the heck is that? He goes, oh, well, there's 2 flippers in there, or two switches in there. So anyway, I was like, so how do you do that on VPN? I was like, oh yeah, it's a thing. I'm like, what the crap, man? I had to upgrade my pin. So
yeah, so did he. Thanks.
Yeah,
It's actually born in Future Pinball, as Terry Red would tell you. It's actually in the config. What's the second stage flipper? Visual Pinball didn't have that.
it does.
Yeah, he was. That's cool. Now I need dual stage flippers. Thanks.
Yeah.
Daphishbowl, incredible work. I'm not going to blow too much up your butt. I'm sure you get lots of praise, but we look forward to all the stuff you've been working on. I see you've also been working with VPN Workshop here and there. You programmed Dread World, or at least helped Iaki with that, as well as the Riverboat on Maverick, I believe, a little bit. Is that true?
I don't remember that. When I help out so much here and there, just people say, hey, can you help me out with this code and that code? I'm like, sure. I throw it on, load it, give them the code. So
It's appreciated.
I mean, my goal is just to help everybody learn how to do what I do, right? I don't want to hold anything. I share the code, people use it, I'm like, great, use it, do what you want to with it, be better.
That's awesome. Thanks, man.
Sure. Appreciate it.
Now, I know Manu's mom needs a job, but he's got to wait until the end, okay? I'm saving the best for last.
My mom's waiting.
Harlan, are you a huge Marvel fan? Because I always seem you associated with all those Marvel pup packs. You're famous as down in the content here piece for your Avengers pup pack. Are you a huge Marvel fan?
I mean, I think as much as the next guy. I think the challenge is when we want to work on a pup pack is what hasn't been done that we can make that's really cool, and then coming up with a concept behind it as well. And so and so I want to do something Avengers. I'm not a huge fan of that table though. That table is brutal. But I love all that stuff. I love all the Marvel stuff, but that wasn't necessarily why we picked that. I think that table was just something that hadn't been done that we thought could kind of be cool, and so we put a lot of work into that one. It's one about famous, but I think it's funny because that's really how Manu and I and me and John connected was, we put this pup pack together. There's so much content in there. Like Joey was helping us out. I mean, there's so many frames in there. We literally have, when you hit certain modes, where the frame will disintegrate, like in the Avengers, and a new frame's underneath it, and just some really cool things we hadn't seen before. But you have to get deep into the table, and that table is brutal. And so we came across Manu, who didn't know us, who liked the pup pack and said, this is really cool. And he was streaming it, but it wasn't set up properly. And so here he is killing the table, and we're still not getting to see all the stuff we put into it. I still don't think I've seen anybody really maybe get more than 20% into what we did.
Well, like Daphishbowl said, I'm going to take that as a challenge. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd love to see somebody crush that thing.
Well, I taught people how the rules work. I didn't get super deep, and frankly, I like Infinity Quest a lot better. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Daphishbowl. I know, Manu, don't look at me like that. I like that table. Don't look at me like that.
The heart
it's
wants
a great
what the
table.
heart wants.
Yeah, you got to get in front of Manu's list and Harlan's list.
Oh, I know. I'm insignificant. Harlan, your videos and After Effects animations are incredible. When you sit down with a theme, how do How do you go about in your decision-making process? How do you select material for the theme you're making?
Yeah, so, well, let's rewind and tell you how I got into After Effects. We used to throw these really elaborate Halloween parties at my house. And one year I decided I wanted the invitation to be a DVD that looked like it was from the CDC. And it was like a quarantine theme. And I wanted to turn my then 7-year-old daughter into a zombie. And so I essentially taught myself After Effects and editing, and my wife came home and found out what I was doing. But she didn't divorce me, but it's really cool. I turned her into a zombie. I even used like the old Hitchcock chocolate syrup on her face for like blood, and we have like a whole night vision thing going. It's really, really cool. And so that's how I taught myself. And then when I got into this hobby, it's just horrifically unapproachable. At least for me, it didn't click. And I was on the forums, and that's where I met John. And John was just so incredibly gracious and helpful. And he took so much time to help a schmuck like me. And I'm asking questions that are just so stupid, and he's not making me feel dumb about them. And he's just walking me through, and I wouldn't have a cab if it wasn't for him. And so, he'd spent so much time helping me that at that point I said, you know what, I want to pay him back. Let's do a pup pack. And he's like, I don't know how to do a pup pack. And I'm like, we're gonna figure it out. And I'll do the video stuff, and you'll do the programming, and you could upload it under your name. This is because I know you want. He really wanted to be a creator. And we looked at guys like Terry, and these guys are like icons, and Scotty. I mean, these guys were legends, and so that's kind of how we got into it. And I think we picked Sopranos together, and we didn't know what we were doing. It's a hot mess, but it's kind of cool.
Well, you mentioned John Hawkeyes for those that don't know, but yeah, he was talking recently about redoing or updating Sopranos. So get ready. He'll probably reach out to you. Yeah. Is he as much of a pain in the ass to work with as Manu?
Nice. You want to know what? It's funny because I'm definitely, of me and John, I'm the bigger pain in the ass. When it comes to Manu, I will say that's one thing we could have been, I suggested a different name other than Pincredibles, like the Anal Maniacs or something like that, because this is the most anal pretended group that you'll ever meet.
Did you see Manu's face? That was wonderful.
Yes.
There's a movie I saw once.
Cover your virgin ears.
Right now. When he said we were having a four-way, I'm like, oh, it's interracial.
Hey, we're a mature channel. It's fine.
Getting better and better.
Let it fly.
Yeah, I mean, literally, when I did the Guardians teaser, Manu, and I thought he was joking. He goes, the music starts about a half a beat off in that. Can we redo it? And that's the level of attention to detail that you get with these guys. You'll be really proud of something, and you'll push it out, and nobody's scared to tell you how they really feel in the group, which I think is, sometimes they're way too enthusiastic about it. but I think that's honestly, I think what makes the standard of work that we put out, so high, is that we're all going to be honest with each other, and if something isn't good, it's never going to see the light of day.
Yeah, well, being transparent with each other and being passionate about what you're doing shines through. I mean, it's apparent. I do have a letter here for you, Harlan.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a Dear John letter from an anonymous viewer.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. There it is. Dear John, why did you choose for the Getaway Pup Pack, Baby Driver? You could have picked a real movie. Love, John.
Yeah.
I don't know who John is.
Yeah, I know who he is.
No idea.
So isn't that funny that when we came up with that idea, John had never seen the movie, didn't like the idea, John will try to shut you down. But man, I just thought this movie goes so good with that table. It's like, it's perfect. And I'll be honest with you, of independent work, when I say, away from, a guy like the Scotty or the Fishbowl, I did some work with Jim Jackson on Addams Family and Elvis as well. But of what me and John and Joey and Super Jimmy did, that I'm really proud of that, because I think that's fun.
Harlan, that is such a good pup pack. Oh my God, that thing slept so hard. It's like the top. If I have top 5 pup packs, that's like 2, and I can't tell you what number 1 is.
I gotta be honest.
Batman.
I hated it when I saw it, Harlan. Hold on. You wanted transparency and passion.
Shut your fucking mouth.
I am giving you transparency. I said, I don't like it. It takes the ZZ Top out of the table that I love. But then I gave it a chance, and I've never looked back. And as Manu said, it's probably one of my top 3 pop packs out there.
It's ridiculous, the stuff they chose for that. The vroom vroom was enough, right? The Getaway's vroom vroom is cool. It just
now it's elevated.
But it goes vroom vroom, vroom vroom, like yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
And then the John Spencer Blues Explosion song kicks in, like that. Is just when I fired that up, I stood back. I just stood back. I just put my hands in the air. I'm like, this is an experience right now, and I haven't even flipped.
Yeah, it stops you from playing the table a lot because you're looking up. It's only that and Playboy get me in that way. I can focus on the table.
The sticky buttons. Yeah. So again, I appreciate a lot. There still is LaGrange is still in there as one of the songs, but yeah, that was a big bone of contention between me and one of the guys that helped us out. His name is Super Dimmy. And it's so funny how people kind of connect through this world. What happened with him was that he came to us. I think Frank sent him our way. Messenger sent him our way, saying, "I know a guy that wants to take your pup packs and translate them to French." And I'm like, as long as he doesn't mess with the content of it, yeah. I mean. And so he literally did it in like a day. I'm like, well, this guy can edit, and he did a great job. And so I'm like, we might need a guy that can help edit. And lo and behold, in Batman 66, we sure did, because there's probably in that table there's thousands of clips. I think a lot probably didn't get used, but in the actual Stern ROM, there's so many clips that we had to recut. And weren't 100% sure what was going to be used and not used. And Dimmy was a big help on that. So
that's cool. Harlan, that's the extent of the questions I'd prepared for you. Do you have anything else you want to?
It's funny because when I got my virtual pin running, I think that's right about when Harry Potter came out, and I was so blown away that I sent Scotty Wick like $100 bottle of whiskey, and he, man, what a good guy he is, and we became friendly after that, and he's so approachable.
Yeah, because you got him drunk.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Everybody's friendly.
But I wanted to say thank you to him, because the work that he puts out, his original tables are just stellar, and how can you not be inspired by people that are taking a huge chunk of their lives out of their personal lives and really getting nothing in return other than just the gratitude of the masses. And sometimes even the masses aren't as gracious as they could be, but it's great to be a part of this community and in a team like this that is so dedicated to sacrificing their personal lives to put out a great piece of work for the community.
everybody in this community does that. I know we all have real jobs, but cheers, guys, for providing hours of entertainment for me, and I'm sure a lot of you there at home. It's something nice to really come home and relax to, and practice and get better at and improve skill. So thank you. Last but not least, MPT3K, Manu. How are you, sir? What the heck is your name? MPT3K. You told us at the beginning it's Mystery Pincredibles Theater.
There you go again, Marty.
Okay.
Mystery. It was, like I said, it was my VPN name, right? I was trying to figure out a name for my cab, like 13 years ago when I built it, and it was like iPin and some stupid name. I was like, I don't know. Yeah, that was one of the considerations. iPin. I'm like, whoa, this is all around the time of iPads and stuff. And I just, what do I love? And at the time, I was really into mystery. I've always been into mystery science theater. And a buddy of mine who did the artwork, all the artwork that I have, all the assets on my thing, I reuse them and I do them in different ways. But my buddy put it together. He says, "I'll do your cabinet art. What do you like?" I says, "Mystery Science Theater." He's all right. And first shot, he did basically the big ball with all people going, and it's all public domain stuff. Is perfect because it's all public domain stuff, everything. And, literally I know 10 years later, I'll be using it in my brand when it's completely safe for me to use. And that's where
cool.
The name came from. So that's that.
You must play hours of pinball as Guardians as an example. I mean, are you sitting there as you're playing, annotating in prep? Are you, taking notes on your phone? How do you handle what you're providing to the team?
I think Guardians gave me carpal tunnel because I now officially have carpal tunnel. I'm like, what are you laughing at, Daphishbowl?
Because I feel your pain.
Okay. Nobody's forcing me to play lots of pinball. I just absolutely love pinball. So if I'm not at Free Go Watch playing pinball, I'm streaming pinball, or I'm knocking out marathon games on this. It's fun.
Are you sick of playing Guardians right now?
No, I am
Really?
not. I'll be sick of playing Guardians like after I've played like a 4-player, test game. I'm like, all right, I'm done. I get up in the next morning because it's so good, Marty. It's almost, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like I'm playing a virtual pin because it's so close to the actual. And that's a fun game to me. Some people don't like it. Some people don't like Guardians. I'm fine with that. Everybody likes what they like.
I've been getting to learn it, and it's gorgeous. It plays wonderfully. It's just I don't know the rule set yet, but I've been watching you play it and learning how to cherry bomb.
I want to move quickly back to Batman, though,
Yeah.
because Batman was kind of the inception of our group. By the time Batman came along, I was on the ground floor of that, so that was fun. I was like, wow, these guys are actually letting me people could say, what the hell is Manu doing in the group? Nothing. Okay.
He's Batman.
And I thought, yeah, maybe I do have imposter syndrome. Maybe I am not useful for this group. But I'm going to bring as much as I can. So I rented the table and I says, I'll provide whatever I can, whatever background knowledge. Because I was already playing a ton of Batman. Like the really super good players at Free Go Watch were already giving me tips on how to get stuff done in Batman. And I rented it and had it in my murder garage for 2 months. And then, and the guys Mr. H I couldn't wait for Mr. H to do the close to the final of the playfield. Because the playfield looked great. The whitewood, we can call it a whitewood.
Yeah,
right,
but
guys?
you didn't have the bat phone, right?
No, we kept bugging Mr. H.
Yes. It's like, is it done? Is it done? Hey,
To the bat phone.
That device. Oh my God.
Yeah. Quickly tell them the story about the turntable. The turntable. One of you guys.
Turntable. Well, I started modeling that. I think I've mentioned this. I started modeling that table years before we even got together. Like I was on holidays in Vietnam, and I took my laptop just because. And as when we were traveling around with kids, we couldn't exactly go out at nighttime. I just I'm going to start modeling up this table, this Batman 66, and then one day somebody's going to come along and they're going to be able to code it, but I'll have the model all ready to go. I started modeling up the spinning turntable, and oh my God, you really appreciate what Stern and pinball designers do.
That's a George Gomez
that mech
masterpiece. It's one of the most complicated mechs in pinball.
Yeah.
And this is Mr. H going, all right, I could do this.
It was such a hard thing to model. You're looking at reference photos and everything else, and it's still not enough. We Manu had the table, and we had a stream one day where you're sticking in a GoPro or something right up the back of the machine, and I'm like, get it in here and move it up there and just a couple of centimeters that way, and just I'm snipping the screen. I'm just this is all of what I need, because there's so much in the you look at Batman 66 and you could walk up to it and go, but you could look at it and you go, it's a pretty simple looking table. It's got a couple of ramps, it's got that little spinny thing at the top there, but then there is so much you don't see, and it is packed that it's just all behind everything. It's just oh my God, and then I don't know how that would even work with coding and whatnot, but I don't do that, so that's okay.
Well, that's where the fishbowl comes in.
We had the glass off the table, we had the ruler out, we're measuring everything, and that's what I have learned from a 3D modeler. In life in general, you should never cut corners. You can't cut corners. And for pinball, if you have something that is a millimeter out, the ball reacts a completely different way. And we're watching videos of Manu playing at the real table, side by side with the VPX table, and we're wanting the ball to do the same thing when it hits here. It's going off in a similar direction. Right. It's going to hit that post when it comes down here. Whereas if things are out of mill, it doesn't, and it completely changes it. And it completely changes the feel of the table for the person playing it. They go, but it's not the same as a real machine.
Mm-hmm. You're right. That's awesome.
That Batman table was us all going through war. The four of us literally dragging ourselves through a war to figure out, because you're talking about one of the most complicated mechs in pinball, and George Gomez will tell you that himself. He said, I'm never building anything like that again. I heard him say it in an interview.
Yeah, same.
Compared to one of the most insane stacking rule sets by Lyman Sheets, rest in peace, Lyman. Yeah. And it was wow.
Any amount of clips.
Oh my God. And the assets? Yeah. One of the guys who Harlan and Super Timmy cannot, you guys the table would not exist. There's so much grunt work these two did. So much grunt work these two guys did. I can't even state how much work that I can imagine, because I had all the assets in front of me and I go, how are you guys going to figure this out? I have no idea how you guys are going to figure out where.
Yeah, we did it off the DVDs, and we edited all those clips right off the DVDs. So yeah, it was crazy.
The love and care and attention to detail shows, and it's almost spot on for playing the real one, from what I can tell. If it isn't spot on,
it does need a physics tweak.
Oh, I did notice some of that, but I was trying to be complimentary.
Yeah, there's still a few bugs in there. I have someone message, this is wrong. This is a glitch, and so there could be another.
I got a couple videos to show you. You probably already know about, but yeah,
it'll come out in the Catwoman version.
It'll happen when a tournament happens and 30 people are playing it, and then you're gonna get a scream fest. But
yeah,
I like Mr. H's idea of a Catwoman version.
I always had the idea of just sneaking that in when we were doing it, just because there is a few graphical updates that they did for that, or people that do. And I'm like, that would be a nice little thing.
You should stick Joey on that.
Yeah,
sounds perfect. All right. I think I've worn Manu out. Manu, you know, you don't get burned out. You know a lot of people in the real pinball space, and you're very adept at networking. I assume that you tap into these IFPA players when you're getting advice on the table. You said you did, but I mean, it's one of the regular practices you do.
You know, Marty, this is a weird thing. There's always been this imaginary divide between physical pinball players and virtual pinball players. I say imaginary because it's not really the case. You have the squeaky outliers of the physical pinball world who feel that virtual pin is beneath them. They are very vocal, but they are very rare. They're extremely rare. I remember being at a party. TJ Byer used to run these pinball parties at his house because there's tons of pinball machines. And I walked in, and this was when I was building my cab. And I walked up to a couple of guys who were talking. And it's like, oh, what do you got? And I said, oh yeah, well, I'm building a cab. Oh, you're building a pinball machine? Oh, homebrew? No, I'm building a virtual cab. And they were like, why don't you just get a regular pinball machine? Because this is a cool project. I thought it was a great project. And I love it. Oh, you're wasting your time. Do I know you? I was like, what the F? Like, dude, this is a thing that I'm interested in and I like. And it was immediately a dismissal of that's not pinball. So I was like, oh, okay, so this entire crowd, I stereotype. This entire crowd doesn't like, but that's not the case. It is actually not the case. A lot of I discovered a lot of the virtual guys have machines. Play machines, are very good at regular machines. And the IFPA players they actually talk to me because I'm friends with a lot of them. So they actually talk to me because I'm always streaming at Freegal Watch. And they come up and they say, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and he mentioned some stuff, and he's asking me really like, well, how do you guys figure out the rules, and how do you do that? Because he's a tournament player and he wants to know if we had the secret sauce to understanding all the rules. So as a tournament player, he can go in and blow up a game, know the secret, this and that. And I'm like, well, I get it from you guys. Like, and it was a very nice conversation we had. And it wasn't, he wasn't, degrading like virtual pin at all. He was like, you guys are amazing because you dig so deep into these things. And they give me tips and they give me hints. And whenever I'm streaming, anything, whether it be a physical pin or a virtual pin, I'll have a Jeff Teola show up. I'll have a Scott Denisi show up. I'll have El Rocco. I mean, insanely talented. Ray Day jumped in on one of my Zeppelin streams. The most embarrassing thing I've ever done was play the game that he helped code in front of him. But they'll all be like, hey, did you know about this little side thing that is not documented anywhere? And I'll just run to the Daphishbowl and go, bro, found something.
Never-ending list.
I've, like you, I've noticed the majority of people support virtual pinball that are in the real pinball community. I mean, I've met a lot, but I mean, Jack Danger came in my stream and was encouraging me, and there's a lot of people out there that don't mind and actually appreciate the skill you can gain playing at home and then take to a tournament and utilize what you've learned. So,
can I say this, Harlan? Yeah. Can I tell him that? So we all know Jack Danger works for Stern, right?
Yeah.
Can I tell him that he kind of helped us a little bit with Batman?
Absolutely.
Didn't he send us some videos?
Absolutely. Yes, he was very helpful. Yeah, definitely, and he was really interested. And I think had he not become the designer, I think he would have definitely been interested in doing something with us in the future. Original.
When he came in here, he was talking about how he designed the Jurassic Park home pin in VPX first. That was where he started.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I was ignorant.
He used to do VPX streams. Like he designed all kinds of stuff on stream in VPX. So yeah, I think Scott Denisi also. These are tools that actually these cats are using because they're valuable tools. They're not just toys. Yeah.
Scott's been supportive as well as Scott Denisi, if you know him.
I know them.
Yeah, I know. But I was watching Scott make music the other day. He's talented people, passionate people, both in the real and virtual community, ladies and gentlemen. These are just 4 more of them. Mr. MPT3K, Harlan, MrH, and Daphishbowl. Gentlemen, that's the extent of my questions, and I have a dog hovering for pizza crumbs, but is there anything else you guys want to tell the audience or say before we wrap up tonight?
I just wanted to do a quick shout out to some of the people who've really helped. I mean, like VPW. I mean, there's like, what they can do is unbelievable. I got introduced to Rick. He's an unbelievable tester, real player. Really helped shed some light on my inability to see what pinball is supposed to do.
Mine too.
Yeah, he's just awesome. And Terry Red, so many things he gives to us. I mean, there's just so much this community does. And so while I make the code happen and we do things, man, there's just so many people behind the scenes. It's unbelievable.
And I'll say this, I can't say what our next project is, but I'm super excited. I'm hoping that Guardians gets pushed out very soon because we're dying to move on. At least I am, nagging the hell out of these guys. But it will be an original, and it's going to kick some serious ass. So
cool. I appreciate you letting us know. I mean, so you heard it here first, guys. The Pincredibles next release will be an original. Stay tuned. Anyone else? All right. Well, gang, I've had a wonderful time. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. It's hard to coordinate 4 people, let alone in general, but in different time zones and with dinner. Thanks, guys. I sincerely appreciate you taking a minute to speak with me tonight.
Marty, you're amazing. Love you.
Thanks, Marty.
Yes.
Thanks,
Love
Marty.
you guys too. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys later. See you at home a little later as well. Thanks.
Later.
thanks.
Lock in.
No one can defeat the quad laser.
It is over now.
Laser core ready.
Sit, Ubu, sit. Good dog.